Welcome back to Racing Direct, guys. So today we have some interesting rumors floating around in the F1 silly season driver market for 2025. So strap in, hit that subscribe button, like the video, let's jump into it. So of course our main topic for today is Sergio Perez, and is he actually going to re-sign with Red Bull in 2025? The contract is up at the end of this year, and it's been a hot topic of discussion for a long time now. Is Red Bull going to keep him on, or are they going to go for a fresh face to partner Max Verstappen going into the future? Well, we did hear some rumors floating around after the conclusion of the Monaco Grand Prix, and it might not be the ones that you would think. Of course, Monaco was not a good weekend for Sergio Perez. He had a terrible qualifying session, finishing P18, didn't even get out of Q1. Then the race rolls around. We all know it's incredibly hard to overtake in Monaco. He likely wasn't going to get into the points anyway, but his race ended before he even got to Casino Square on the opening lap when he collided with Kevin Magnussen and eventually also bumped into Nico Hülkenberg. Not saying it was exactly his fault in this occasion, but it just wrapped up a terrible weekend in Monaco for Sergio Perez. So of course the rumors floating around after what has been sort of a just okay start to the season, we'll say, for Sergio Perez, that potentially Red Bull was looking to move on from him. But now we've heard rumors coming out that he's actually very close to a contract extension to stay at Red Bull for at least one more year. Now take that as you will. Again, these are just rumors that are floating around the paddock, but a lot of major publications are reporting this exact same story. Now, there's obviously two extremely differing opinions here with Sergio Perez. Of course, he's been really important to Red Bull for the past few years now. He was instrumental in helping Verstappen get his first championship, and he's also been a huge success with helping them with their Constructors' Championships as well. And really, when you look at sort of things, obviously he's never going to match Max Verstappen pace. There's really nobody on the grid that can actually do that right now when he's in the best car. But he's been doing exactly what they want him to do, and that is be an excellent number 2 driver and support Max. All they really need from Sergio Perez is to get the Constructors' Championship. So really, they just need consistent results. It's honestly not too bad for them if he doesn't even win a race at all. As long as he's helping them win the Constructors and he's not messing up Max, that's all they could ever ask for. But now with certain teams getting a lot better with upgrades, of course we look at McLaren and Ferrari, they are officially breathing down the necks of Red Bull and could potentially make this a much more interesting season than we initially thought it was going to be. Well, Red Bull is sort of under the gun here. While it was a little easier for them the past couple of years, and Sergio Perez was doing a pretty reasonable job in his number 2 driver role, they really need him to step up if they're going to fend off the likes of McLaren and Red Bull. So he has a lot to prove going forward, but in the eyes of Red Bull, it sounds like he might have already done enough. If these reports are anything to go by, it sounds like he will be sticking with Max Verstappen for 2025. Obviously, that throws a huge monkey wrench into the silly season driver market because many people thought that second Red Bull seat, or potentially even both of them, would actually be open. Of course, the big name that is still out there is Carlos Sainz, who is still looking for a drive. We do understand that he is pretty close to getting something done. We could honestly hear something in the coming weeks about where his future will take him beyond the end of the 2024 season. But one of the likely destinations that people thought he was going to go to was Red Bull, which would honestly form quite the super team if it was Carlos Sainz and Max Verstappen. But now it sounds like Sergio Perez is actually going to retain that seat. So this is just another one of the dominoes that could fall in the 2025 driver market. And that could also lead us into the direction that Carlos Sainz is leading towards, and it could give us another picture about where Sainz will sign, for lack of a better term. Now, what do I think about Sergio Perez potentially re-signing with Red Bull? Let's see here. I have defended this guy for quite a while now. Of course, things really didn't look very good after Monaco, and like I said, he hasn't had the greatest start to the season this year, and he's especially under a lot more pressure now that the competition is getting much closer to Red Bull. So I'm a little 50-50 on this. I would have said the start of the season, absolutely, he's a good re-signing. He doesn't really interfere with Max too much. He doesn't ruffle many feathers, and he gets consistent results that Red Bull needs to seal the Constructors' Championship. But now that things are getting a little tighter, there's a lot more pressure on Sergio Perez, well, it could really go either way at this point. I'm not really sure what to think of it at this moment. I'm a little surprised, to be honest, that this news is coming out right after he had such a horrendous weekend, but who honestly knows how long these contract talks have been going on for. I can only imagine it's been going on since the start of the year, as Red Bull and Sergio Perez both need to figure out what their plans are going forward so they can start to plan out their future roadmap. Of course, there's a lot of changing times going on within Red Bull. We already know about the crazy civil war that was going on internally between Christian Horner, Helmut Marko, and some other senior executives back in Austria. We know that Adrian Newey is departing the team at the end of the year and potentially signing with a rival as well. So getting their second driver picked out as quickly as possible, that is something that is extremely important to these guys, and honestly it's extremely important to the rest of the grid. If Sergio Perez does resign, and it's sounding like he will unless anything changes in the next few days, I would say, that means that Carlos Sainz is still on the table, and there are a few teams that will really want to sign him. Now, we did hear a while back that Helmut Marko was also interested in Carlos Sainz, but he actually stated that he had a crazy offer on the table from Audi that even Red Bull could not match. So whether that is anything to go off of, if maybe Marko was just trying to help the Red Bull stock and try to sway Sainz's decision, it's a total mystery. Helmut Marko is not shy to just speak off the top of his head and say whatever he wants, so take that with a grain of salt as well. But things are getting really interesting again in the driver market. Ever since, well, I would say February, or whenever Hamilton announced he was signing with Ferrari, it's just been a topsy-turvy, crazy whirlwind of news about who's leaving the grid, who's joining the grid, and who is changing teams. But as it stands right now, it does sound like Sergio Perez will stick with Red Bull. So I'm kind of curious to see what you guys think about this. Do you think that he has earn his place to stay with Red Bull beyond the end of the 2024 season? Or do you think Red Bull will be better off going in another direction, maybe picking someone a bit younger? Because we do have to remember that age does play a factor in this with Sergio Perez. He's no spring chicken anymore, I'll put it that way, and he does have some younger drivers chomping at the bit that might want to get that Red Bull seat. Let's not count out Yuki Tsunoda as well. He's been driving really well for V-Carb this year. Honestly, aside from the big teams, I would say that he's been the standout of the grid. He has been absolutely phenomenal, consistently outpacing his far more experienced teammate in Daniel Ricciardo and getting some big results for V-Carb, completely outdriving that car in my opinion. So watch out for him as well. That was another candidate who I honestly thought was probably going to get this seat after Perez has had this slightly rocky start to the season, but it looks like he might have to wait in the wings in V-Carb for another season, or will have to look elsewhere outside of the Red Bull family. So there is a lot of moving pieces going on. I'm sure we're going to get a lot more news about this in the coming days, or maybe in the coming hours. We'll see when this vlog goes up if we have any more news to report on. But right now it does sound like Perez is re-signing. I am not completely opposed to this. However, I do believe that Perez really does need to step it up, and there's going to be a lot of pressure on him to perform if Red Bull is going to hold on to that Constructors' Championship. Now, if this is true and he does resign, this is just a prediction. I don't have any extra insight on this. I think it'll be a one-year deal just to sort of give him another shot, or Red Bull just wants to give him one more chance to prove himself and show that he can still stick around, because let's be honest, as I mentioned, there's a lot of young up-and-coming talents that want to get that seat. So I think 1 year is pretty suitable to give him one last go-around with the Red Bull team. That is my prediction, a 1-year contract extension for Sergio Perez. So let's see if that comes true. But yes, give me your thoughts and your comments down below on what you think of this topic, if Perez is the right decision to re-sign for Verstappen's teammate once again, or if you think the likes of Carlos Sainz, Yuki Tsunoda, or somebody else should take that seat off of Perez. Let me hear it, guys. Let me know what you think about that. Of course, I'll remind you to hit subscribe again, like the video, share it with your friends and your family, whoever else, to help grow this channel. We'll see you next time on Racing Direct.